But one thing is true regardless, and that's that no relationship is free of hurdles. To form a lasting relationship, you'll need to put in the work, even with your soulmate.
The key message here is no partner will completely fulfill all your needs all the time.
When we seek a romantic partner, there's sometimes an expectation that this person will be our ideal match in every way. But this lofty ideal can be dangerous. In fact, according to a study on couples by social psychologists Spike W.S. Lee and Norbert Schwartz, people who believe in perfect matches are more likely to be disappointed and dissatisfied in their relationships. This doesn't mean you should abandon the notion of soulmates. You can still aim to find your bashert or fellow traveler. Just be prepared to put energy and effort into building a healthy relationship. Even if God has paired you with your optimal other half, you two will still have to navigate the trials and tribulations of life together. So, how will you know if you've met the right partner? There's no exact answer, but sometimes you'll just know. While we like to think that our brains can solve every problem with logic or reasoning, our bodies can also be valuable sources of insight. The way you feel around someone matters. Listen to your gut instincts. If you have a deep sensation of unease, maybe reconsider the partnership. On the other hand, if your gut says yes, you might be onto something. Of course, even the best partner won't mirror you completely. In healthy relationships, both partners have friends, interests, and passions beyond the pairing. So don't be discouraged if your soulmate doesn't share your exact hobbies or has a social circle all of their own. You should encourage them to be true to themselves, and they should do the same for you.
Blink 5 of 8.
Let's talk about sex. Should be easy, right? After all, the world around us is saturated with erotic imagery. Films regularly feature steamy sex scenes, pornography is always mere clicks away, and scantily clad bodies are used to advertise everything from cars to hamburgers. The problem is, all this tantalizing media can crowd out the most important authority on sexuality: ourselves. All too often, we're so focused on what sex should be that we're not in touch with our actual desires. And this disconnect can make physical intimacy difficult or unsatisfying. Luckily, like all aspects of romantic relationships, this tension around sex can be relieved with care, communication, and attention.
The key message here is sex is completely natural, but good sex requires a bit of work.
The plucky American actress Mae West famously described sex as emotion in motion. And she couldn't have been more correct. Sex, and in fact all forms of physical affection, are deeply entwined with our emotions. Touch, whether it's a hug, a kiss, or something more intimate, is a powerful way to communicate and connect with another person. But before we begin feeling others, it's imperative to get in touch with ourselves. Having good sex with a partner requires that you first understand your own sexuality. You have to feel comfortable in your own skin, know your own turn-ons and boundaries, and have a firm grasp on what types of touch bring you pleasure. Learning all this is an ongoing process, but it starts with spending time with yourself and exploring what feels good on your own terms. This may involve some trial and error, but it's worth it in the end. Once you start to know your own needs, you'll be better prepared to fully engage with a partner and to give and receive pleasure. This could be within a long-term relationship or with a more casual pairing. How you approach it is up to you. But be wary. Contemporary hookup culture sometimes advocates casual sex with no communication or emotional involvement. This may work for some people, but for others, it can lead to misunderstandings, hurt feelings, or other undesirable situations. Still, you shouldn't be too wary. Everyone is entitled to the intimacy and pleasure that sex can bring. There's nothing greedy, selfish, or shameful about desiring powerful erotic experiences. When you find the right partner, that is, someone you feel comfortable, vulnerable, and passionate with, your relationship will benefit from the strong physical connection that sex can bring.
Blink 6 of 8.
It's Saturday night, and you and your partner are at a boozy party across town. At some point during the soiree, you get separated. After some searching, you find her out on the balcony. She's having an intimate chat with an attractive stranger. Maybe a bit too intimate. What do? You could grab her by the wrist, drag her outside, and then spend the whole ride home unloading a barrage of angry insults. Or you could take a passive-aggressive approach, pretend you didn't notice, but fill the next week with icy silence and snide remarks. Honestly, neither response is good. Both are reactive. That is, they're driven wholly by your initial emotional impulse. And that's a recipe for disaster.
The key message here is avoid emotional conflicts by creating spaces to process and reflect.
When we're faced with an unpleasant situation, our brains and bodies push us to react quickly. This impulse is guided by the primordial fight or flight response our ancestors developed to survive dangerous encounters. So, when trouble arises in an intimate relationship, we're moved to either fight by, for example, yelling and shouting, or we're driven to flee by withdrawing and becoming avoidant. The problem is that both these responses make matters worse. They are impulsive reactions that push us away from our partners and heighten the tension in a relationship. A better solution involves creating space to process your emotions before taking action. A brief pause, like a deep breath or a short walk, can help you see the situation more clearly, or at least let you approach the issue with less hostility and more empathy. When you take a reflective pause, you're able to transform a linear conflict story into a systemic conflict story. A linear conflict story is your simple read on a situation. In this example, you may feel your partner ditched you for a beautiful stranger. A systemic story includes more nuanced information that may not be so apparent. Maybe you're feeling insecure due to outside reasons. Or maybe your partner didn't know many people at the party and was just glad to be socializing at all. Telling a systemic story opens space to talk through any conflict. And when you do get to talking, you need to choose your words carefully. Avoid intimacy-preventing traps. These are accusatory phrases like, "You always X," or "Why didn't you Y?" Instead, try intimacy-inviting phrases like, "I feel that Z," or "What kept you from O?" This softer language prevents black and white thinking by leaving space for everyone to express themselves with less judgment.
Blink 7 of 8.
Let's drop in on Matt and Kevin. A few weeks ago, Kevin had an operation that left him temporarily immobilized. This means that Matt has been handling all the housework. He's been cooking the meals, watching the children, and even helping Kevin shower and dress. Needless to say, everyone is stressed. So, it's no surprise that someone eventually snaps. In a fit of frustration, Kevin rudely chides Matt for a small mistake. Both partners glare at each other. The air is filled with tension. Then something amazing happens. Kevin apologizes. He admits he was lashing out and thanks Matt for all his hard work. Suddenly, things are back to normal. The whole scene takes less than a minute, but it's the small moments like this that keep a relationship alive through hard times.
The key message here is a sincere apology can make a relationship stronger.
Mistakes are inevitable. It's unfortunate, but true. No matter how hard you try, sooner or later, you'll slip up, stumble, or act out. It might be a small gaffe, like forgetting to take out the trash, or cracking a joke that just doesn't land. Or it could be a big indiscretion, like lying, cheating, or committing a crime. Now, even though each of these errors is definitely disappointing, a heartfelt apology can go a long way toward fixing them. The problem is, apologizing isn't always easy. In fact, it's a skill that must be learned. A good apology is sincere, specific, and creates accountability. For instance, if you say something hurtful to a partner, it wouldn't work to roll your eyes and declare, "Sorry, I'm such a bad person." A more honest apology would be direct and acknowledge the pain you caused. It would sound something like, "I'm sorry for the comment I made. It was unnecessary, and I'll be more thoughtful in the future." Sometimes, for bigger transgressions, more work is necessary. You might have to make an amends action. This is a purposeful action meant to demonstrate the depth of your regret and to fix the pain you've caused. An amends action for someone who drunkenly cheated on their spouse could involve giving up drinking, perhaps by attending AA meetings. Such an action shows commitment to not making the same mistake again. But this is still only half of the story. The thing is, the way you receive an apology is just as crucial as how you give it. Heartfelt apologies should be met with heartfelt forgiveness. Forgiving someone doesn't mean you condone their actions, but it does show you're willing to move on. Practicing forgiveness also helps the one forgiving, because carrying a grudge can prevent you from being able to experience the positive aspects of a relationship.
Blink 8 of 8.
When was the last time you looked at your phone? Be honest. Has it been an hour? 20 minutes? Maybe it's only been 30 seconds. Don't feel too bad. In today's world, our electronic devices are our constant companions. They're fun and useful, but they can keep us from being truly present. When we're on the receiving end of a constant ping of notifications, we can become distracted from the people we're actually with. But it goes deeper, too. Social media saturation and the endless stream of potential matches on dating apps provide the illusion of infinite possibilities. We might forget what we have and always search for something better. Technology is an important way in which we can hamper our ability to be intimate, but it's not the only one.
The key message here is relationships last when you strive to be fully present.
Being fully present for a relationship means more than just sharing physical space with your partner. Presence involves being completely invested with both your mind and your heart. This means you're engaged, listening, and attentive when your loved one is around. It also means you're emotionally available and empathetic when they're expressing inner thoughts and feelings. Of course, being present is a two-way street. To be fully present, you also need to be open to receiving love, kindness, and support from your partner. This can be more difficult than it sounds. Sometimes we can get so caught up in our own negative feelings or internal battles that we reject any attempt at closeness. When this happens, we shut people out when we should be letting them in. That's why it's crucial to practice self-compassion. Self-compassion is the act of acknowledging your own values and virtues as a person. It involves being kind to yourself when you fail, recognizing the struggles you share with others, and practicing mindfulness when you feel discouraged or overwhelmed. In a nutshell, when you're self-compassionate, you're treating yourself as you would treat a dear friend or loved one. Practicing self-compassion goes hand in hand with recognizing the limits of your control. When things aren't going your way, it's easy to get discouraged or fixated on how things should be different. Maybe you're stressed at work, or you and your partner are having a fight. In these moments, it's essential to accept that these things happen and that life is a series of ebbs and flows, of ups and downs. Sometimes you have to step back and appreciate life and love for what they truly are: ongoing processes.
You've just listened to our blinks to Loving Bravely by Alexandra H. Solomon.
The key message in these blinks is that finding and maintaining a relationship isn't always easy, but there are a few valuable skills that can make pairing up a little simpler. Start by practicing relational self-awareness, which means reflecting on what patterns and expectations you bring to the table. Then, as you navigate your relationship, be mindful of the unrealistic or undesirable pressures society may force on you. And finally, always aim to approach your partner with openness, compassion, and a loving presence. And here's some more actionable advice. Ask your parents. Now that you're an adult, it might be valuable to look back at your childhood with a little more distance. If you can, talk to your parents about their experiences. By reflecting on their struggles and triumphs, you may see old patterns in a new light. You might also get some great advice from people who have been through a lot together.
Got feedback?